Okay, so our special guest today is MJ Mars. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a horror writer from Lancaster in the UK. So I had a book published in February called The Suffering. And I live with my husband and a rabbit called Frankenstein.
I love the name. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your book, obviously without not giving away any spoilers.
Okay, so it starts in a student house on Halloween night, and the house has a bit of a creepy history. Back in 1876, there was a séance, and it unleashed 5 ghosts who massacred all of the people who were present at the séance. It's a bit of a local lore, a bit of local legend. Nobody really believes that is actually what happened. They think, there must be something more to it. It can't be ghosts, obviously. So the students who live in the student house decide to recreate the séance at Halloween, and it brings out all the ghosts, and one by one they attach onto each of the students and kind of prey on their darkest fears, really. So for each individual student, they each have a ghost that kind of targets the things that they love the most in their lives. So it sort of strips them of their joy, kind of thing. So and then they have to kind of work out how to get rid of them if it's possible.
Okay, so what's inspired you to write in the horror genre?
Well, I've always just loved horror. There's that excitement that always comes with the horror, I think, that I never got with any other genre. Even since I was a little kid, it gave me that kind of, spark inside whenever I watched a horror movie or read a horror book. I was always really into Richard Layman when I was a little kid, and I sort of discovered his books when I was going on holiday, and just it always makes me think of just summer days and just enjoying Richard Layman. And then I tried writing in other genres. I had like a crime story sort of placed in a competition a good number of years ago, but it just never quite felt as authentic as when I'm writing horror. It just doesn't feel like me when I'm not doing it. So it's definitely the genre that I'm most comfortable in. It was probably the one that took me the longest to kind of learn the ropes with as well. I think it's so interesting how to build the story and your characters and things like that. So it is the genre that really keeps me interested as well and keeps me on my toes.
I get what you mean. There's only so many ways that you can explain how someone's in pain when you're torturing them or doing something.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to kind of really take it in different directions and, throw a few sort of unexpected little things in there. And it's one of those genres where anything can happen, really. And that's what I love about it.
Okay, so how do you come up with the dark settings in your stories? How do you come up with the ideas?
Well, I get a lot of inspiration from history, like the ghosts in The Suffering. One of them was a member of the Hellfire Club, and I'd seen, I think it was like a Ghost Adventures episode or something where they were in the caves, and sort of discussing that lore and how they did rituals and things like that to make as much fortune as they possibly could. So I just thought that was such a great idea for a character. And I'd already kind of got the Anthony Pyle character, but he was a corrupt priest at first. But then I'd watched that episode and I was just like, oh, Hellfire Club, so much more interesting than a corrupt priest. Everyone's done that to death. So I just thought, that's fantastic. And it was exciting sort of reading about all of the history of there, and then my local history as well. Lisa Vaughan is one of the other ghosts, and she was a fortune teller who worked on St George's Quay, which is just around the corner from me. And so when the sailors come in the 1800s to the quay, obviously the ladies would be waiting to entertain them in all the various different ways. And so I thought if she was there, she's a fortune teller, but she also puts them under her spell. So they then have to join her horde kind of thing. So once she's kind of crossed their palm, that's it for them. They end up sort of jumping into the sea a few days later and then have to join her horde and do all her bidding in the afterlife. So history mainly, I think there is a lot of gruesome history, obviously, to be looked into and explored, and always inspiration there.
So I know you mentioned Richard Lehman, one of my favourite authors, but which horror authors have actually influenced you the most?
Oh, I'd say definitely Lehman to start with, because like I loved how he would paint the scene. So it's like the way he describes food and, you know, the sunshine and just little things like that. But I always found with his books, I could just picture everything that he was describing just so clearly. But it wasn't pages and pages and pages of description. It's literally just like 3 lines and you can see it exactly what you think he's sort of telling you to see. And I just, I found that absolutely engaging and brilliant with his work. I just, you know, the way that you can race through it, but you've got so much information. Whereas as much as I love, you know, King and Kuntz and everybody, I do find there is a little bit more engagement that you need to just kind of, when you read in the paragraphs of the settings, and sort of, especially with King, he sort of goes into so much detail over every little thing. And I think that you don't see any more than you do with Lehman. It's a really interesting thing, the way that some writers can just do a few little lines and you see the whole picture, and then others, you know, it's like 2 pages and you've got the same setting kind of thing. And so I think I always like that fast-pacey kind of, and splatterpunk. I'm a big sort of splatter fan. I love that moment in a horror story where it's so horrible it makes you laugh out loud. And that might sound kind of weird to a lot of people, but it is. It's just that it's like someone's just told a joke because it's so horrendous. It just, your instinct is to just laugh. I love that. So any books that can do that, any authors that can do that. I mean, not horror, but Judy Blume. I read so much of hers when I was a kid, and she was a great influence on my writing because I loved how she just did domestic and made it just so fascinating. Like the page turners, but they're just about kids living their lives. You know, there's nothing sort of spectacularly unusual going on with them, but you're so interested in what happens next. So she's another of my big influences, though definitely not horror.
So what's the most challenging aspect of writing for you?
Oh, trying not to procrastinate is a big one. I find that I kind of like, a story will just kind of simmer in my head for a long, long time. And then I'll get the sudden urge to write, and it all comes out in a big flood, and I'll have it down in a couple of months. And then it's like the painstaking editing that takes the months and months and months. And so it's just sort of staying engaged, really. And because it is those little bursts, I've never been the kind of writer who's been able to sort of be like, right, I'm writing 500 words every single day this year at the same time. I'm just going to sit at my computer and bash them out. It just doesn't work for me. You know, I can't do that. My mind would just shut off and be like, no, I have no ideas. Nothing's coming today. You know, you can just sit and stare at this blank computer screen. So because it is those like fast and frantic, ferocious times, not burning out as well is a big one for me, because I tend to just do everything all at once, and then nothing for like 2 months. Shattered. So I do, finding that balance, I think, is something that I do really struggle with. So for book 2, I'm trying to be a little bit more sort of calmer in my approach and just a bit more methodical, I think.
Yeah. Well, you learn, don't you? As you're going along with your first one, you definitely learn.
Absolutely. That's another thing that I love about writing. It's just the learning never stops. And you can just suddenly find that you've changed something in your style or in how you go about things, how you research things, how you get it down on paper in the first place can just change completely because you've learned a different method. And it's just brilliant. It's a lifelong learning process, I think. I don't think you ever, you know, learn exactly how you're going to be from book 1 to book 20. I think it would just change completely. So it's lovely.
So are there any memorable reactions from your readers that stand out to you?
Oh, there's been so many. It's lovely how people engage with the characters, I think. It's funny because a lot of people really enjoy Cassie because she's quite strong-headed and sort of fights her own corner and is a little bit unusual in her thought process. And I think that's resonated with a lot of people out there who are like, oh yeah, she was really realistic to me. And a lot of people don't like her as well, which is so funny because as with all books, you can get sort of read 2 reviews and it's like, oh, are you reading the same thing? Because you take it so differently. Like some people just don't like her at all. And I find that brilliant. And when people are saying like, oh, I really liked this character, you just feel like it's your kid, really. So that's my favorite thing about it, when people actually sort of feel a connection to the characters. It really makes me feel so brilliant. I love it. But people have just been lovely, like amazing. The comments and the support that the readers give is just insane. It's been such a whirlwind. And, you know, I get really moved by it. I'm just like, oh my God. And the other day I was like stuck, what was I doing? Like folding washing, you know, and then I just was like, oh God, this is boring. So I picked up my phone and just kind of went into a group and someone had posted like, oh, I'm sat on holiday in Turkey. I'm reading The Suffering. And it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like I'm here sort of folding laundry, but my book is being read in Turkey. It's such a brilliant, I'm like living vicariously through it. I'm in Turkey on the beach, not folding my washing. But it's lovely. Yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say it's unreal. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So are there any upcoming projects or releases that you're excited about?
For my own or other people's?
For you.
For me, well, I'm working currently on the second Suffering. I wasn't going to do it so quickly, but, you know, people have been asking for it. So I was like, oh, you know, it's so great that people actually want it. So I am doing it. I just thought it would be a couple of years even before it even was wanted by people. So it's just lovely. Like, I'm not going to look that gift horse in the mouth and not write it. So I'm doing that. And also I'm working on another one at the moment that's hopefully a bit scarier, a bit creepier. It's about a university study that goes a bit wrong, where people are sort of trying to focus on the pictures that come behind your eyelids when you're going to sleep. And it pulls through all sorts of creepy things and nasty things. And so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, neither of those are going to be out anytime soon, I don't think. Definitely next year, hopefully. But we shall see. You never know, do you, with these things, how long it's going to take. But,
no, you don't. It's finding the time as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's hectic. And like I say, with me, you know, you just never know if I'm going to shut down for 2 months. So I'll get them out as soon as I can.
So what advice would you give to aspiring horror writers? So obviously this is your first book. Mm-hmm. You're obviously learning but every day is a learning day. So obviously you're always learning with writing. So how would you tell someone who's about to come into the horror business?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first advice is always don't set yourself a time limit, because you just torturing yourself for no reason. It's like, you know, I've been wanting this since I was a little kid in school, and I'm 40 this year that it's happened, and it doesn't make it any less brilliant that it's finally happened. You know, I used to always think, oh my God, you know, I want to be published by the time I'm 20, and then it was 25, and then it was 30, and then it was 35. And it really doesn't matter, because, you know, sort of through working 9-to-5 jobs, I met loads of friends. You have more experience. There's more to kind of write about through sort of, you know, experiencing. And like I say, you know, if I'd been published back when I was 20, I'd probably not be a horror writer. It would have been something that I was toying with then. So maybe like the crime or something else. And so I really feel like this is me, and this is the right time for me to be doing this. So that's my main bit of advice for people: don't torture yourself by setting these horrendous time limits and, I have to do this by then, because there's no need. It'll come when it comes, and it's going to be the right time. Even if it's 20 years from now, it's going to be the right time for you.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? I mean, you can dream all you like, but until you've got the time to actually sit down and do it, and that's all you can do, isn't it? Just get there and do it.
Absolutely. And then it takes ages. I mean, like the whole, writing to agents and trying to get bites, and it's a hard thing. It does. You have to deal with so much rejection, and so just keep on chugging away, keep on learning, keep on changing little things. Just find what works for you, and it will come. Just don't give up on it because it's been so many years or so many months, or you haven't done it by X age. Don't live like that. Just do it and keep on chugging away at it.
Brilliant. Is there anything else you'd like to add at all?
I don't think so. Just thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who's read it. It's like I say, it's just been the most wonderful experience, and the readers are who make it so fantastic. So just
Well, it's been lovely having you here. So thank you very much for joining us on the show.
It's my pleasure.
I wish you all the luck with your book, and also writing your other two. Look forward to seeing those sometime next year.
Thank you so much.